And one.
You are listening to UPRN, United Public Radio Network, coming to you live on 105.3 right up to 107.7 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. UPRNtalkradio.com.
Okay.
All right, everybody. It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcasts. There's an amazing show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. The Outer Realm in the category of Best Female Hosted Podcast. The Outer Realm is a very popular show hosted by Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano, which boasts millions of listeners each week who are well known for and have been complimented on their very laid-back, roundtable style of interviewing. Together, this dynamic duo brings you the best of the best with guests from around the world who are well-versed within their respective fields of ufology, paranormal, esoteric, and other areas of high strangeness, and more. So go to podcastawards.com to nominate The Outer Realm in the category Best Female Hosted Podcast. That's podcastawards.com, and please take a moment and do it now.
It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcasts. There's an amazing show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in 3 categories: education, storyteller drama, and art. For 4 years, the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast has provided advice and tips from international best-selling authors, world-class artists, contest judges and winners, and industry professionals based on the world-famous Writers of the Future contest created in 1983 by L. Ron Hubbard to help the aspiring writer and artist no matter their age. It is dedicated to the future of storytelling and art by showing that it is never too late to start, and those who make it are those who never give up. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in any or all of the 3 categories: education, storyteller drama, and art. That's podcastawards.com, and please take a moment and go out and vote now.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome into the night with Shawn Kelly. How is everybody doing tonight? We are on 105.3 New Orleans, 107.7 Mississippi, and also we're on Roku. So that's pretty cool that we're on Roku, because I watched my show the other day on Roku, and you know what? I look pretty dazzling. I look dazzled. I was like, not bedazzled, but I was dazzled. So Tara, how are you tonight?
I am doing a lot better. Thanks for asking. How about you?
Oh, well, tell you what, a couple days ago, I was watching TV and then a commercial popped up, and it was about a new credit card, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you can use worldwide. And I'm thinking to myself, worldwide credit card. And I'm thinking, that sounds a little fishy. But I really didn't think about it too much, right? I really didn't think about it. And then I saw it again, like 2 or 3 times that same night. And I'm wondering, boom, it was like a light bulb just went off in my head, okay?
Right.
Because they have been talking for a while that the world's going to go into one big central bank.
Right.
For everybody. That this bank's going to control everybody's money. Now, I know it's a little political, but we're not going to stick on the political stuff too much, okay? Very little. But it's been bothering me because all of a sudden, who's in here? Who's Wow? I don't know Wow. Okay, someone else is in it. But all I know is that they were doing it. And personally, in my mind, I'm thinking about, hey, it's actually starting. Okay, it's actually
Right.
starting. And, it's like one of the biggest fears that I had, right? So I did contact my bank here in Pittsburgh, okay? And I was thinking, and I asked them the question. I said, what's with this credit card that's good for worldwide? And they didn't even know about it. I said, yeah, here it is. I showed them a picture of it and stuff. And I just, and they never heard anything about it. And I asked them about the central banking system, and they said, they don't know. They have no news on about it. They said, don't you worry. I mean, you're still part of the bank.
Hmm.
Um, we're not part of that. But it kind of blew me away. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, cryptocurrency really kind of went by the wayside there for a while. I don't really know how much.
Regular currency is going by the way where I don't know if I should
Yeah.
have money. I don't know if I should, I mean, honestly, the way it sounded to me when they first brought it up was like, you sounded like you had to pull all your money out so you can, and you couldn't spend your money. But, I just threw that under the rug because I didn't really think of something like that before. But all of a
Right.
sudden they come out with this credit card with, where it's used worldwide. Okay. So, and then I saw some other commercial that's really like crazy. It's that they offer you, I think it's like $1,500. I don't know, but it's about medical. You can use medical worldwide. You know what I mean? Yeah. So say like you're in Ireland or Italy or whatever, you know, they offer, if you got this card saying that you can get medical help with it, you know what I mean? So I'm like, no, this
It
ain't
kind of
right.
makes it fishy too that you're a veteran. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it were me, or if it were I guess I'm not sure what the proper English is on that. But anyway, and that was me trying to push people into this. I would go after the veterans first because, they're used to being all over the world. It's believable, that kind of thing.
You know, I will have to say, and I'm glad you brought up the veterans. For the longest time, um, the veterans would not take me, okay, because the jobs that I worked, I had good medical,
Hmm.
right? And they didn't accept it because my medical was good. But when Donald Trump passed that bill, where the vets would, no matter how much money you make or whoever you work with, right?
Hmm.
Um, the veterinarian hospital got to take you to VA. Okay.
Good.
And he also, in that law that he passed, was that, if you're with the VA and there's no VA around to help you, you can go to hospitals, regular hospitals to get looked at. And here they bill, the
The
VA.
VA. That's nice.
But ever since I joined the VA, my goodness, I go over there, okay, for my appointments. And they are the nicest people in the world that works in the VA hospital. Honest to God, if anybody in the VA hospital is listening to this show, my God, God bless you, because I'm telling you what, you guys are great. You they treat you with respect. They're always smiling. They're saying hello. How you feeling? You know what I mean? They don't treat you like a regular doctor's office where you sit down and come back, Mr. Kelly, sit down, do this, and that. And the doctor comes in, sees you for about 2 minutes, you know what I mean? And then he's gone. If I didn't have the VA hospital, right, I wouldn't have known that I had spots on my lungs. I wouldn't have known, that I have an 8 millimeter thyroid right here, a goiter on my thyroid and stuff. And they take care of me, and they take care of all those veterans over there. And then I go in, and like I said, I will go in to the hospital, VA hospital, and I see all the old veterans there from, honest to God, Korea, Vietnam, and you just want to go up and just give them a hug or just tell them hello.
Mm-hmm.
And they listen. It's like really cool as hell.
And they always have great stories. We have the A.B. Abraham secondary building here in Butler, besides the really big main campus of the VA. And I had taken one of my friends that didn't have a ride there at one point, and it was amazing, how many people treated him with open arms and like they've known him for forever. And,
Yeah.
listening to the stories of the soldiers, the seamen, everything. I mean, it was just nuts. And then they also have A.B. Abraham's uniform enshrined there.
Mm-hmm.
And my niece, that's only 6 years younger than me, she's like my sister, works as a pharmacist there. So, and she loves her patients. She just, really does.
I mean, they're the ultimate. They're the ultimate. Now it's like I'm not knocking any nurses or doctors out there right now who work in regular hospitals, but there are times that I got 2 or 3 appointments in one day over there. Okay?
Yeah.
And they're always checking up on me. And there's times when I leave there, I don't want to leave there because in that building over at the VA hospital, they are so nice and they treat you with respect. And I know once I leave there, I got to get away from that and I have to go back out into the real world again.
Yeah.
But I just want to say kudos with the VA because they take care of me. They take care of my brother. God bless the people in the VA. What about you? What's going on with you?
I've been off work for about a week and a half now due to my chronic pain, but I'm here, I'm alive, I'm getting adjusted. So I'm going back tomorrow, hopefully. So.
All right. So we'll just keep your fingers crossed for everybody. That everything works out all right for you.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
But now getting to the show. And, I did a little research at work because I got all my work done today at the meat room. And I had a little time to do a little bit of research. Okay. And we are going to talk about the Appalachian Mountains or Appalachian Mountains, however you want to say it. I'm from Pittsburgh, so I say Ashen. Someone else could say Appalachian or whatever. It's crazy. But so I did a little research on the Appalachian Mountains, okay? And it's crazy how far they go, right? And I got my notes here, and I'm going to read from my notes. So
I have a good map I'm going to hold up.
Okay. So the Appalachians start in central Alabama, okay? And they go as far as to the province of Newfoundland in Canada. Okay. The map that Tara got right there is just taking it up to New York, or does it move over some a little bit?
It does, but unfortunately, printing wise, I couldn't get it to go the whole way.
Okay. But it goes all the way up to Newfoundland, Canada. There are 13 states and spans, check this out, everybody, 206,000 square miles from southern New York to northern Mississippi. These are all mountains, okay? But out of the 13 states that are part of the Appalachian Mountains, okay, check this out, right? West Virginia, what is maybe about not even a half hour, 40 minutes from here, okay, is completely in the Appalachian Mountains. It's the only state that sits right in the middle of the Appalachian Mountains, which I think is like really, really cool,
Wow. Yeah.
Now, everybody, this is going to blow you guys away, maybe or maybe not, I don't know, but the biggest city according to population in the Appalachia is, drumroll, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Yes,
Nice.
is the biggest city in the Appalachian Mountains. Okay. And I also believe, too, um, Pittsburgh or to Murraysville is like the gateway to the Midwest. So we got kind of going, right? Gateway to the Midwest. We got, the biggest population in the Appalachians. And I think that's like really, really cool. I'd never thought in a million years that Pittsburgh would be part of that.
Yeah, that's
Um,
crazy. When you told me that earlier, I was like, oh my, that's
yeah,
like,
it was like
yeah.
ridiculous, man. That was like Frater. Oh, hi, Frater.
What's up, Freighter?
I've been to Pittsburgh before. Well, that's good. Should go back more. Visit me. But now, what's really cool, now the other cities also is Cleveland, Ohio, Nashville, Tennessee, and Atlanta, Georgia. But Pittsburgh is the number one biggest city in the Appalachian, which I thought was really cool.
That is cool.
Yeah. And the Appalachian Mountains are named after the Appalachi Indians
Nice.
that lived in the modern day Tallahassee, Florida. Okay. Let's see. And it would take a typical hiker 5 to 7 months to hike the entire Appalachian Trail.
Wow, that's
Oh,
crazy.
yeah. So, what's your thoughts on the Appalachian Mountains, Terry? Tell us.
Well, I start back from the history I've always known is that, it was originally Irish settlers and like bluegrass started there because that was all the pub music and that's what they all played. I mean, they were drinking their shine on their porches and playing pub music and it steamrolled from there. And I mean, if you think about our kind of people, if they settle in the mountains, you're surrounded by trees. You don't have a lot of people. So you're going to see stuff. And you're also pretty far away from hospitals. So great grandma Helga's recipe for, cough syrup is what you're going to be using. You're not going to
Okay.
be using a prescription from a hospital.
And
So, you see a lot of stuff that you can't explain. You fend for yourself. You have your superstitions of the Irish. You have, your shamans. I mean, Native American shaman, I'm sure lived there and still probably do, some of them that haven't been, threatened to leave, that kind of thing. So I'm sure they've seen a lot of stuff, and what a better place for the government to hide stuff too that they're
mhm,
working on.
true, true, true. But yeah, so I've done a couple shows on the mountains, Appalachian Mountains, and there is so much to cover in it. You know what I mean? By the way, anybody out there who's listening to the show or who's in the chat room, feel free, please come into the chat room. And if you have ever had an experience in the Appalachian Mountains, please tell us. We would like to hear it from you. Um, but there's a lot of really creepy things there in the
Yeah.
Appalachian Mountains. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Um,
I mean the stuff that I found out just by researching. I mean, you have the cryptoids and the cryptids that we've all known. The Bigfoot. We've seen different people say different colors. The Mothman obviously is famous, but some of the ones that I never heard of was the Flatwood Monster. Don't know if you ever heard of that, or
no, I haven't. Do you
the
have any?
Brown Mountain Lights,
Yeah, that's normal.
and then the blue-eyed or the moon-eyed people, and then of course one of the most infamous, the Bell Witch.
That Bell Witch is pretty. Did you read the backstory to that?
Yeah,
That's crazy, man.
yeah, it is.
You know, and it just, I don't know. It's just like very, very intriguing. And what the Bells did, I mean, to the woman, it just isn't right. And if it's actually a good story, if it is actually a real story, all right, she had every right to destroy that family. Do you know what I mean? Seriously. But
Yep.
whenever I go down, what I'm really, attracts me to the Appalachian Mountains. It's not so much the cryptids, the ghost stories, and stuff like that, right? But it's actually how pretty they are. Okay, they are gorgeous. Like when I go down 77 down through Virginia and North Carolina, and I ride through them. They're gorgeous, and I don't know. You know how you talk about you get a sense of feeling that you
Yep.
get when you're around or near something. That's the kind of feelings that I get, and it's all good. What's really funny, right? In the mornings, you travel the main road down there, and all of a sudden you see all these little places that have smoke coming out of the air. You know what I mean? And I don't. It's just a remarkable place to be. There is some times in there, because as I was doing my research at work, you have to excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sweating like a pig. It is hot and humid here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So because I googled the towns that but have some stories behind it. Okay, and the first town is Burkittsville, Maryland. And it's only home to 170 people. I mean, this
Wow.
is a little small town, right?
What's it
Burkittsville.
near?
I don't know. I think it's out in the woods because this town, Burkittsville, Maryland, is really, really close to the Bell. What was the name of the show? The Bell Witch? No, not the Bell Witch. The Blair Witch.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay, the Blair Witch. So the story behind, the Blair Witch Project was that this 8-year-old girl went missing, and they actually had a search party go out and look for this girl, right? So the search party never came back, so they sent another search party out to find these guys. And here they found them all disembodied. Okay. And they went back out again to retrieve them. And then all of a sudden, okay, the bodies weren't there.
Oof.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, like we've talked about this on past shows, okay, I'm a city boy. Okay. And even though I like the wilderness or the woods, I might go in 100 yards. That's about it. Because I won't go in because who knows, there's probably a Bigfoot or somebody looking around at me, and I'd be like, nah, that's okay. You probably have a Bigfoot there, coming after me and stuff like that. But even up here in Pennsylvania, when I go out, when I go out to North Park to go fishing, or I take a trail through South Park, it just feels like that the eyes are watching me, right? And no matter where I'm at, when I'm out in the woods, it's like I'm being watched. I don't know if it's from the little people. I don't. There hasn't been no sightings of a Bigfoot around here where I live, down here in Pittsburgh. But I don't know. It's really crazy because it's like I get a creepy feeling, but then again, it's not so much creepy. You know what I mean? It's like I'm just waiting for them suckers to jump out and say, "Hi, I'm here. All right, let's go wherever you want to go." I mean, but that's how I get. Whenever I'm like really close to the woods, you know what I mean, especially around here. And even when we went cold prospecting that one time, even though that was like near a parking lot and people were walking up and down, and we were down there digging up trying to get some gold. It was when we were in there, and I didn't want to tell you this, but like we were in the water, and it actually was like something in the water. I could just feel the energy coming from the water.
Mm-hmm.
And even
That's
though there were
highly energetic place.
I'm telling you, And so that's um, where it is. And at first, it really, really like bugged me, kind of confused me, kind of got worried about it, you know. Um, but after a while, it just seemed to like disappear. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
I accept whatever is there. I look at it now. If I'm ever going to be, snatched up by a Bigfoot, or if I'm going to be snatched up by the dog man or whatever, it's going to happen. So it's like, okay, my health, my insurance is covered up. My burial's all set. You know what I mean? Paul's getting some money. My brother's getting some money. So why not? You know, I don't know. How about
It's
you?
coming from the guy that went toe to toe with some pretty heinous creatures.
Yeah, exactly. And they were heinous, all right. They were definitely heinous.
Well, see, I'm
And
the opposite. I like to be barefoot in the woods. I don't care how far. I stay away from the poison ivy if I can. If I can find a creek or a stream, I'm in it. You saw me, I was knee deep in it. So, I mean, that's my comfort zone. It's the
yeah,
city that makes me feel creeped out.
right. And well, I prefer not so much the city, but a little bit out of the city. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
That's why I like Butler. It's small enough.
the way the world is today, you know, you just see it. You just see it where you live, where I work. There's no getting away from it. You know, for me, it's like, okay, I'm at work, and all the distress and all the stuff that's going on, I just walk right back into the meat room and don't have to deal with people. You know what I mean? But
Right?
once when I leave work, and it's a whole new different story, and I'm like, man, really? Why
Yep.
can't you be nice?
I hear you.
So
I guess it's,
maybe,
your trip's probably better now that you're not going the Parkway West.
oh no, no, not at all. In fact, it's like 6 minutes. But you know what? It just, and that's why I like to get away somewhere, you know, because I would a long time ago when I really got into the meditation and when I really got into seeking spirit. Okay, um, I meditated a lot at South Park, and I loved it. I literally loved it because once when I went out there, sat down, and started meditating, I just felt like I was like at home. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It really, I could, feel the energy coming from the trees and from the animals and stuff like that. I remember one time I was meditating, I woke up and there was a baby, there was a mama raccoon with three of her babies, right? And I'm sitting there, she just comes right up with the babies and sits there in front of me. And I'm like, I have no food. But you know what? Um, just that, deer would come up and rabbits. It was it's just a unique experience. But the most unique experience I had out there, now out in South Park they have the buffalo, right?
Hmm.
Up there. And there was actually got to see me and Paul when Paul was small. We actually saw the birth of a buffalo, a bison.
Nice.
Yeah, it was like really, really cool. Um, and it felt very spiritual too.
Yeah.
But what was crazy about the whole time, at that time I was doing some research and studying, buffalo white calf woman, Lakota Sioux, and it was just very, very interesting. Have you ever experienced something like that before?
I actually was hiking through the woods with my dad. We did a lot of hiking when I was younger, and we actually had just missed the birth of a horse that my sister's neighbor had. We literally within minutes. So
Hmm.
it was still, learning how to walk, and it was just magnificent. It was like, it's funny because when I finally found the difference between city people and country people, was my daughter's 5th grade camping trip, because they go to Camp Lutherland, which is up here by the fairgrounds in Butler. And like, that's my home area. So, so kids were freaking out because we were driving the school bus through the woods and there was turkey, and they were freaking out. And I'm just like, look, it's turkey, and they're all like, oh my God, we're going to die. And like, that was, good grief, that's got to be over 20 years ago that we
Right.
did that. So like, for me, it was just, I'm used to it. But with me, it's always been hawks. And yesterday I heard one screaming above my house. So I went out on the porch with my cane and hobbled out and sat there for a while and talked to him.
Okay. Speaking of hawks, now, people, if you're wondering why we're getting away from the Appalachian Mountains, we have so much we want to talk about. But the second hour of our show, starting at 9 o'clock, that's when Tara's going to get into more of her, the granny witches and stuff like that. So it's like, so come after 9 o'clock, and, Tara's going to kind of take over. I can keep my mouth shut. I bet you all get tired of hearing me. But yeah, but when it comes down, there's a hawk. That's my female energy, who is my guide also. And one day, no lie, she left a dead mouse in my car, on top of my hood. I was like, thank you. But it's amazing. Now I'm dealing with a bunch of crows, a lot of ravens. So in the morning, they're on the same lamp pole, and I say good morning, and they quack, quack. And then not too many around my house, you know what I mean? So I'm dealing with the crows. I'm trying to deal with the crow medicine, the raven medicine.
Means you got to hang out with Freighter more.
Oh yeah, Freighter, did you hear that? There's another. Now back to the cities, the little towns. Let me see. Here's Okay, there is one town in Maggie Valley, North Carolina. It's a deserted amusement park. Okay, and tall tales of ghosts. People can still go out and visit, and they do investigate it, and that it's really well known on the Appalachian Trail. This town. Then you go up to Trans-Allegheny Asylum in West Virginia. Okay. That's part. Yes. And we all know what goes down there, right? The Trans-Allegheny Asylum. That's like a really big hotspot for a lot of paranormal investigating teams go,
Yeah, it's crazy.
Have you ever been down there?
I've never investigated, so I did the tourist thing when I went to go pick up my son at Paris Island, since I was driving by myself. And it was the first long trip I took since I was diagnosed. So I was trying to do like the touristy thing and stop every so often. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm just going to go check it out. And like, you're in this little town like Shakora, which is where I grew up, which is north of Butler. And like, you're just driving around these side streets and boom, there it is. And I thought it was going to be back in the hills, gated off. No, it's in the middle of this town. Like, it's like in the middle of Dormont.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's one place I never investigated, the Trans-Allegheny Asylum. Not even take a little video, a little tour of it. And the reason being is because, maybe I'm ignorant. Maybe I was too egotistical at the time that I was hunting ghosts, right? And being a paranormal investigator at the time. It's just that I always felt that, why do I need to go to a place where they already been on TV, and all kinds of paranormal groups go down there to investigate? You know what I mean? That was my feeling. Why do I need? But what I would do was send them donations. You know what I mean? Maybe 20, 30, maybe $50 donating to them. You know what I mean? But I believe I just had that feeling where I believe that, Eastern Penn, I wouldn't do it because you have to pay a ton of money for that. I remember the last time I looked, and that was a while back. Okay, to do an all-night investigation at Eastern Penn, you had to pay $2,500 for the night. Okay.
That's insane.
Yeah, it is. So in order to cut back on the deal, right, you'd have to bring at least 50 people to do an investigation overnight. And what's that? A lot of money.
Well, and the thing is, too, they limit how many you can bring. So they'll probably limit you to 10 if you're lucky. So that's still $250 a pop.
I know. And it just seems like that every ghost show that's been on there, just comes up with the same evidence. Like no one ever actually went in and explored it by themselves before it even got popular. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd rather not go to places where taps or Paranormal State or where they went, because it's just like really ridiculous. I don't believe in that. But like the only place that I actually enjoyed going to was down in Trimway, Ohio, and the place is called Prospect Place in Trimway, Ohio.
I was going to say I loved going there with you guys,
and it was very, very, very educational. It was extremely very haunted. But what I really liked about that place was that the money that they received from the groups or the people who were investigating it, they were actually putting it back in to make it look like they wanted to get it back to what it looked like back when it was built in 1902, 1903, something like that.
right?
But it's like definitely haunted. Come on, Shawn, start thing. The barn, okay? There's that really nasty ghost out there. And they hung a dude there. And whenever I would go to the barn, it just like really not freaked me out. I can't say it freaked, but the people who I brought along, it would creep them out because that guy was very, very, he wasn't afraid or ashamed to say what he wanted to say or do what he wanted to do. In fact, I remember one time I had a girl in the group, and she deliberately went into that barn and she deliberately was calling it out. I'm like, why are you doing this? She said, I want to get scratched.
Oh my gosh.
That's what she said. Yeah, I want to get scratched.
That was one of the few places you told me I wasn't allowed to go because I was too green and you didn't want me going there. But it's still the place that I had the most activity that I can honestly say is inexplicable. I can't say it word. I can't explain it because basically we were upstairs close to the turret where they used to look for, people coming to look for the people in the Underground Railroad. And it was me and one of my colleagues, and we were doing a flashlight session. And it was just crazy, like so much evidence there.
Mm-hmm. Is this down Prospect?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. What I like was the cellar. I enjoyed the cellar.
Yeah, that's where I actually passed being a PPS person. You left me down there by myself.
Yeah, that was one of the things. If you wanted to become a member, was sit down there in that cellar. And what I liked and enjoyed about the cellar was, and I'll see everybody backstory to the cellar was, if somebody would have died in December, January, or February, or even March, okay, the ground was too hard to shovel. So what they would do is they would put them in like an ice box type of thing. Stone was laid around, and they would leave the dead bodies into this ice place and cover them up until the ground got a lot softer. Then they did bury them. But it was part of the Underground Railroad, and you could actually, if you sit in the back and look forward, there's this hallway with the light. And the honest to goodness, you could actually see the shadows just go zoop, 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 zoop. I really enjoyed that place. I haven't been down there for a while now. It's under new ownership, and the last time I went down was a couple of years ago, I do believe 2 or 3. and they really did a phenomenal, renovation on the place, and they were still doing it. So, but the rules have
Nice.
changed a little bit, you know. But I really did enjoy it. Now I wonder. No, I don't. No, that wouldn't be part of the Appalachian. But I do have a couple other towns here, believe it or not. Um, okay, there's Centralia is part of the Appalachian Mountains.
Wow.
Yes. And when I was up there visiting my friend this my past vacation, I mean, we rode to Centralia, and I did get that eerie feeling. All right, the ground was hot. I mean, we didn't actually go on. They call it Graffiti Road. Okay, didn't actually get because both exits and where you can enter is like they got dirt mounds that are so high that there's no way you can actually get in. And state police actually do patrol that area. So when I was in Centralia with my friend, it was a neat experience. Okay, I enjoyed just actually saying that I was there. It would have been nice if I could actually go into the town, but you know what? I look at it like this. Okay, there are some places, right? There are some places that you are not supposed to go in. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because now I'm old, but when I was in my 40s doing this shit, right, I wouldn't have no mind climbing over the mounds and walking down the street. You know what I mean? But it's creepy. So I have no doubt that um, it could be haunted. A lot of people talk about ghost stories. Let's see, but I really didn't get that ghostly feeling. I just got this feeling of not blah, but sort of um, like a dread
Hmm.
coming over me. There's people that still live in Centralia, right?
Yeah.
So it, it 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 was an enjoyable ride. But when I was up there, my friend took me around to a lot of places up in that area, and it he took me to a couple cemeteries, and I'll tell you what, maybe next year I'll go up and then I'll stay up there a week and then go and investigate, these cemeteries and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to going to that. How about you? Anything that you can add on to that story?
There's another place near where I live that I'm not going to say too much about, only because, liability reasons, but I feel that sense of dread too, because the city didn't have a lot of time to leave, kind of like Centralia, before a catastrophic event happened that was kind of more ecological and more fun. But the whole city still lives, it resides under a certain body of water.
Oh, you can say it. Everyone knows about it. That's what they call it, Stick City.
No,
This is
it's
the one
about
up in Evansville, right?
no, the
Evan.
one up. I'm talking about Moraine.
Oh, yeah. Now, see, I don't know about that one. I know the one up in Evans City
Okay,
where
yeah,
they deliberately buried, put a whole town underwater.
yeah. Well, what they did with Moraine was an ecological lake that back in, like, the glacier times, it was a lake, and they had found that it existed, and they mapped out the exact blueprint and flooded it and made it into a park. And you can see where 422 actually goes into the lake, but most of the town's still under there.
Okay. Which I think is cool.
Yeah, they left it as kind of like a habitat where fish could hide and things like that. I
Hmm.
believe a lot of that. Plus, I mean, I'm sure it would have been expensive to get rid of all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. But Moraine up there, Snyder Cemetery,
Hmm.
good luck. And, if y'all want to write these down and try to get up there, good luck at finding
I actually
it.
work with a Snyder that's actually a Snyder.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, he's
But
really sweet.
And like I tell everybody, if you want to go out and investigate a certain place, if you want to go out and do a cemetery or anywhere else that you need, get your permission, or go
Mhm.
tell the cops what you're going to do, state police, and tell them that you're going to be there. So, whenever you get the phone calls, they're not coming out with their lights on. Um, and that's happened a couple times when we were out north for sales. But people would call the police.
Yeah.
But the police would come back and tell them we already know what they're doing out there. So it's cool. So always, 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 please get permission
Yep.
to do.
It's extremely important.
Oh yes. Let me see. There's a couple other. I want to. Yeah, you're almost time for you to do your witchy thing.
That's okay. I'll tell you a town that I find very strange going to see John is Paw Paw, it's called. I'm not sure if it's considered Maryland or West Virginia or what area, or even if it is part of Appalachia, but it's a very strange feeling town.
Okay. Huh.
It's just you drive through it on the way. It's and there's a town right next to it called Old Town, and it's just like you'd never believe that it was a town. The Old Town post office is right off the little highway I'm on, and it's this little teeny tiny building that you
Right.
would think was a shed, kind of. So it's kind of neat to see, but I do get really bizarre feelings there.
Okay. Did you ever pull over and investigate it?
No, I was always
No.
too excited to go see John.
Oh. Okay. Okay. But yeah.
I do
So
plan a trip there at some point, though. There's, I guess, a famous thing called the Paw Paw Tunnel that's supposedly haunted.
well, we're gonna have to research it. If anybody out there listening to the show, or anybody in the chat room, if you could tell us or find any information about the Paw Paw Tunnel or the Paw Paw Town, please tell us so we can make life a little bit more easier on us and on you guys. I truly appreciate it. Now, the Mothman, Point Pleasant, West Virginia. The Mothman. Okay. Don't even look at your notes.
Nope.
Don't look at your notes. Now, everyone loves the Mothman. Okay. These couples riding down in their car and something jumped on with red eyes, beady red eyes. And I saw a program. I don't know, my friend showed it to me at work. And he told me, here's a show. And the show was like, they believed that the Mothman wasn't real, that it all was a hoax. Yes. Now, I'm not going to spoil anything for anybody, but I did watch this show. Okay. Now, see, at the time when the Mothman, became a myth, right? At that time, down in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, the government, okay, down in Point Pleasant, was actually tossing nuclear waste over into a pond, or they weren't disposing it like the way
Okay,
they
that
were
makes
supposed
sense.
to.
Okay.
So what happened was someone came up with the Mothman. Now, were these people told to start spreading this news about the Mothman? Okay, who knows? You know how they do in today's world where something really stupid happens and actually it's just keeping everybody quiet from the real shit that's happening. You know what I mean? It's like
East Palestine, Ohio.
yeah, that wasn't a cover up, man. That was for real. That was legit.
That was just disgusting.
Disgusting and ridiculous. But this is not our show to discuss such things.
Nope.
This is talking about the Appalachian and our different places that we investigate. But
Yeah.
so maybe the Mothman's real. Do I believe that he's real? Again, I have to see it to believe it, but I do I do have a lot of friends that believe the Mothman exists. Okay. Now, if he does exist, is it could be a product of the nuclear waste that was actually maybe it was a bat, you know what I mean? And maybe with this nuclear or what this really nasty stuff that they were dumping legally, okay, is it very
Yeah.
possible that it could have mutated from that?
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, not to get off topic, but Chernobyl was a nuclear event.
Right.
So, it would be in tandem. And they're saying that, they find all kinds of animals over that way that have morphed into something unrecognizable, or sharks with more than one head, or, strange stuff like that. So, I mean, it would make sense.
It would make a lot of sense, and that's probably what happened. Calling in the old military bunkers down in there, with the military people. Because if I'm not mistaken, if I know the story, that the people that the thing landed on the car, I think the military come to them, or wasn't the
Hmm.
military involved with something
That's where
like
the
that?
Men in Black started, if I recall correctly.
Okay, but still, let see, maybe now I think about it, right? I truly believe that the sewage, right? Okay, could have transferred this bat into something mean, disgusting. You know what I mean? I'm not knocking anybody, but the Mothman. Okay, I've talked to a lot of people. I know a lot of friends that believe in the Mothman. All right, so I'm not pulling the rug from under them, but um, I would have to say that there would be still a little bit of research to go on with that. But I'm pretty sure Point Pleasant was doing some not nice things in destroying the environment to and there could possibility happen, you know. And there's another place, one more. It's called Edmonson County in Kentucky, and it spans for 420 miles. The Appalachian Mountains. And I'm just infatuated with the mountains. Okay. I do want to go down there, and I do want to explore.
Well, and I plan to build a tiny house down by Asheville,
Nashville. Okay.
near Asheville, North Carolina.
Well, that's cool. But I want to go down, and I want to go with a guide. I want to go with somebody that knows what they're doing,
Right.
And I want to experience it myself. I want to see if, of all the myths and stories that I hear from the mountains itself, I want to experience that. I'm
Yeah.
not, I'm not saying that there's nothing down there in the woods. I have no doubt in my mind that there are, and I would like to actually see it, you know what I mean, and believe and see what I can come up with. But I'll never walk the trail because I ain't gonna walk it for 5 to 7 months to do
No.
the whole trail. But
I think I only know one individual in my entire life that might possibly pull that off, but
right.
we don't talk much anymore now that he's married because his wife,
Okay. No, none of that crap. None of my
Oh,
show.
no. He was a coworker of mine, and I just
We
didn't.
are a children-friendly show. Right? But so what your last thoughts on the Appalachian Mountains until and then we get into what you want to talk about.
Sure. I mean, there's so many other myths that we could go on for days. I mean, you have the goat man, that's part of the lore. There's some light activity that's part of the lore. Obviously, Bigfoot. There are so many cryptids that are contained in the Appalachians or Appalachians, depending on how you want to do it. Anything's possible. They have the moon-eyed people that are believed to be aliens, that kind of thing. So, I mean, it is possible. It really is. I mean, what better way to hide? Whether it's the government or somebody from another planet or a mythical or ecological changed human or animal.
Right. And because if you go out west, and it's really cool. I watched the show one time on TV. Me and my mom, in fact, I was surprised she watched it. It was about this guy that's called investigating the 37th degree parallel. All right, which goes right in the middle of the United States. Okay,
Yep.
37-0, and he investigated a lot of UFO happenings, and I mean they took it all the way, like from I forget what state, all the way out to Nevada, to California and stuff like that. So one day we'll have a show on the 37th parallel, you know, um, where is it the 34th? I forget what it's called, the 34th or the 37th, but it was a very interesting show. And as he walked his parallel or, traveled the parallel, right,
Mm-hmm.
he stopped off in different places that had UFO. I mean, it runs right through Area 51. You know what I mean? So when it's coming up pretty close to the second hour, Tara, do you have a little, little thing you want to say? Like, give a little background of what you're going to be talking about.
Sure. The Irish settled in the Appalachian Mountains a lot of times, like I had said earlier. And, you have to think about what towns were like in Ireland. You had your nurse, you had your doctor, they could be somebody at the pub giving you alcohol for all you knew. The music was amazing. The home remedies, the superstitions, they've all trickled down through the years and still stick to this day.
And and there's going to be a lot more that you would like to talk about too, correct?
Oh yeah. How this morphs into, the Bell Witch,
Okay.
and, folk magic tradition and granny witches. So yeah.
That now everybody please stick around, and I mean I think it's going to be interesting because there's stuff here, what Tara's going to be coming up and talking with. I don't have a clue what she's going to bring up, but she is correct on the one thing that it was blasted minds. There's a ton of Irish that went up there, and I know we watched the Barnwood Builders on Thursday night, and they play hillbilly music, Appalachian music, and me and my mom together will say that's Irish.
Yeah.
That's Irish, and that's Irish.
All the pub music.
I know. I had a friend in the Navy. He was from Rooster Run, Kentucky, and that's the name of a place. And he would clog, what I mean? And clogging's actually Irish. So I'm really looking forward to, hearing what you have to say about all this stuff. So before we get to it, because we got a couple minutes left, maybe about a minute, and then we'll, turn the show over to Tara here. But I don't know. We have a lot of stuff that we can be talking about. I am in the works for a show with, remember I told you guys a long time ago, I have a TV show, Raw Fear, right? So I got in contact with all the people who were part of that show, and they are all up for coming on into the night and talk about it, which is like really, really cool.
Who was at the premiere?
Of course, you. There's a lot of people at the premiere. That was
gosh, that place was nuts. It was great. It was at the Hollywood Theater in Dormont.
I mean,
so handsome.
Oh, come on.
It was neat to meet the cast and the crew and everything, and yeah, it was great.
That was a very, very
the only time I've ever seen you all dressed up, dude.
And the only time you'll see me dressed up is if I'm at a wedding or at my funeral, one or the other. That's about it. Maybe not in my funeral either. I don't really know. But we are coming up on 9:00 p.m. and I really, really would like to thank What's Natasha's store again?
Pardon me?
Natasha's store. I told her I'd throw
Little
a
Shop of
thing in.
Lilith?
Yeah, I want to, give a shout out to the little shop of Lilith and Natasha and what she has done for her community up there. And it's a great store up in Butler. She has all kinds of good stuff. So I think she's on the website, right?
Yeah,
She
she
have a
has Little
website,
Shop of Lilith, and it's on Route 8 North,
Route
north
8.
of Clearview Mall.
And if you're in Butler, PA, go check out Natasha's place. Um, and I also want to give a great thanks to Carnation. Um, I want to thank them for, hi, Doreen, how are you? Good to see you. There she is. My partner in crime at one time. But I want to thank Carnation for sponsoring the second hour of Into the Night. And I truly appreciate what you have done for me when I had Chasing Prophecy and now Into the Night by you sponsoring us. They got some really, really good stuff. Is there anybody you want to get a shout out for, Tara?
Celestial Oddities
Okay.
Paraseekers were a new group. So, and yeah, Freighter Crow has some interesting guests this week too on Thursday.
Okay. Awesome sauce. Awesome sauce. And so it is 9:01, and I'm turning this show over to Tara. I'll sit back and listen, and if I have anything to interject with, I definitely will do it. Go ahead, Tara.
Okay. So, well, we Irish are always superstitious, and some of the stuff that got handed down from Ireland to the Appalachians were some superstitions. Always leave a building the same way you entered it if you can. If you see a black cat crossing the road in front of you, draw an X in the air 3 times to avoid bad luck.
No, see, I'm gonna hold you up right there. When the black cat crosses the road, it's not bad luck in my idea. Okay, it's just a cat going across the road to get to some other place, man.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
But go ahead. Go ahead.
When you're harvesting apples from a tree, leave at least one to keep the devil away. I guess that has roots, back in Bible days
by
too.
the time you get done picking the apples off the tree, you're going to be tired. So actually, there's going to be more than one left. There's going to be like 10 of them.
Right.
Stuff. Okay.
And I'm sure you probably do this one. If you spill salt, throw a pinch over your left shoulder.
Yeah, I did one time.
Yeah.
For luck. Nothing happened. No luck for me there. But go ahead.
I do still to this day, but I don't drink the spirits. Pour a little bit out on the ground to satisfy the spirits that have passed. We did this at my dad's grave because he didn't get to have a shot of whiskey when John graduated. So, for good luck in the coming year, open your front and back doors at midnight on New Year's Eve to let the old year blow out and the new year blow in.
I've heard that. But
Yes,
I don't know what happened. Everybody must have had their doors shut for 2023 because there ain't no bad here. It just seemed like it hung around, or the good air didn't just want to come through and push it out. It was like, nah, you can stay in the house for a while. But tell me about granny witches.
Yeah, so Appalachian witchcraft derived from many different areas. It's the folk magic tradition. If you think about where a lot of people came from, it was like the European people. It was, obviously the Irish, the Great Britons, and even Cherokee and Native Americans were all part of the Appalachians, and where they all come from were from little villages. So you always knew there was a resident warrior that you had to go to, like a chieftain, resident, nurse or shaman or medicine worker, that kind of thing. So the granny witches came from the original witches or witch doctors or whatever you wanted to call them back in the day. They were the natural healers. They were people that researched different tonics, different herbalisms to help people. Who doesn't know that honey works for a cough? That kind of thing. So it all stemmed from being in a little village. Back then, you had to walk sometimes days, sometimes weeks to get to the nearest town to even be seen in a small hospital. So these
Mhm.
people came out of the woodwork, you know, that, you know, each town had their own little person that was a granny witch or medicine person. It wasn't always a woman, it could have been a guy, and a chieftain or a shaman that they saw. Sometimes they saw them because they thought they were being hexed. Sometimes they saw them because they thought they were being cursed. Sometimes they saw them because they legit had a wound or a cough that wouldn't go away. So it kind of mirrors the villages from like Africa or from Ireland. You know, Ireland, you had your own pub that you always went to. That was the town meeting hall. And there was always a healer somewhere nearby and a priest. So
Okay.
that's where the origination of granny witches came from, you
But
know.
what were some? You were saying that a granny witch like did potions and medicines and stuff like that. My
Hmm.
question to you would be: did any of these granny witches get in trouble by the law for performing this kind of stuff?
So the most notable was the Bell Witch.
Okay.
You know, her neighbor was having some problems. He was down on his luck and he blamed her for it. That was back in the, you know, the witch hysteria. And it was the Bell Farm. He had, you know, two daughters complaining that people, you know, something was pulling at their bed covers and pinched them while they were sleeping. And they had all kinds of crazy stuff happening at their house. And he was confident that his neighbor was the result of it. She was the reason. You know, people started coming to the farm to experience it, and they had poltergeist activity, and you know, they had the local witch lady, and she, you know, she was not living anywhere near there, and they talked for 3 or 4 nights about the past, present, and the future with the witch supposedly, and supposedly her last words were that she promised to return in 107 years after, you know, what they did to her. So I mean, what do you do? You know, was
Well,
she legitimately, you know, a shaman? Was she legitimately a town witch? Was she legitimately? We don't know. But
right.
they blamed everything on her. They blamed everything that was happening on her. They, you know, they defamed her, they discredited her, they, you know, pretty much did all they could to make her a menace and a horror, basically.
Well, basically, did they not do that in Salem, Massachusetts?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
And it was right around the same time frame, too. It was the early 1800s, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry,
I but I have a feeling, a little feeling about that situation on Salem and the Belwitch. Um, I mean, she knew what she was doing, and she was probably as nice as can be
right.
in trying to help people out. But people were totally jealous of her, and I'm sure with all the jealousy and all the anger, they had to do something about it in order for them to uh, make them feel good. But if I'm not mistaken, now correct me if I'm wrong. She did come back, and the dude died.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
Mm-hmm. It basically scared him to death.
Is that what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, she
So
didn't
what
do it, but
kind?
she got blamed for it, obviously.
So what kind of potions would these granny witches make? If you look
Well, I
around.
mean, if you're thinking about it, you know, the term witch straddles the mythical and the true. So, I mean, a lot of these witches are probably herbalists. They probably, through a long line of generations, learned different things. You
Okay.
know, like not to eat Queen Anne's lace because it's highly toxic, you know, because some person somewhere decided to eat it and drop dead. I mean, that kind of thing. But you know, my mom, my grandma, everybody I knew in my family for generations swore by hot tea with a shot of whiskey and honey in it when you were sick. It was a hottie toddy. You sweat out the toxins. You're keeping hydrated with the tea, and the honey calms your cough.
Right.
you know.
And that's how I became an alcoholic. Having a lot of them.
You and
I'm
me
being
both.
honest with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Seriously.
and that's the thing. Like, I mean, when Christianity became involved in everything, they wanted personal salvation through Christ, and they started doing damnations on the witches. And unfortunately, you know, that led to a lot of covens gathering at night, a lot of mystical stuff. You know, I'm part Native American, which we just recently found out. We just recently found out I'm actually Irish. You know, so it explains a lot, but in our inner workings together over the past 20 some years, we've learned that for some reason I'm a healer and you're a warrior, and we seem to be tag team together. But the thing is, you know, folk healing and the idea of granny magic is holistic. It's, you know, sometimes you need nettle because you're not feeling well. Sometimes you want to take elderberry syrup because you want to build up your immunity before your cold starts. And a lot of people are starting to realize that these herbs have legitimate uses. I mean, if you look at a lot of Rite Aid, for instance, has like a whole little apothecary section in itself, and they call it holistic healing.
Right. And that, to me, I did see that one time, and it kind of like shocked me they would actually put holistic stuff in there, you know, for people. But to me, that it did blow me away. But then again, it just goes to show that Rite Aid is being a good company by allowing, because I know big pharma out there would not have nothing to do with that. So my question to you is, do you think as time went on, like the 1800s and the grannies, and then come 1900s, do you think the pharmacies just kicked in and say, well, you all can't do that anymore, and you got to buy our pills?
Oh yeah, I mean, you think about how many pharmacies and big pharma have been subsidized by the government. But the thing is, too, because witches went into hiding and did things secretively, there was that mystique. And then, of course, it became evil because it was anti-Christian. And, you know, but I don't understand where in the Bible this stuff was anti-Christian. But hey, it is what it is. But I mean, like the Appalachians especially have a long storied tradition of, you know, things being passed on from generation to generation to generation, and they call it the granny witchcraft for something, I guess, that seems like it's less harmful. And I mean, if you think about it, my grandma was the first one to ever give me a hottie toddy, so granny magic, you know, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, as settlers started, you know, the settlers came in the 1700s, if you think about it, and it was the 1800s that the Great Witch Trials started. So, I mean, dowsing rods looking for water was part of it, you know.
Why do you think that happens? That's a good question I want to ask. Why do you think dowsing rods find water? There has to be a magic trick to it.
So, dowsing rods I've seen used for numerous things. I've seen them, you know, trying to find water. I've seen people use them trying to find a paranormal person, creature, dead person, whatever you want to call it. I think they work with the energy of the person. If it isn't the person twirling them themselves, it's just the energy field around that person making them spin.
Okay, because I used them on investigations, and I'll be the first one to tell you I manipulated those.
Oh yeah,
just like I manipulated doing what's that thing that goes around? You know, that you do this and then you ask a yes and no question. Pendulum.
Oh, the pendulums.
Yeah, and I manipulated that. And so I did an experiment. Okay. I asked the pendulum, is my name Robert? And it said yes. and I said, is my name Shawn? And it said no. And in my mind, I'm manipulating it to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The only way a true pendulum would work is if you had some kind of stand, okay, with a hook on it,
Mm-hmm.
and you actually put that pendulum on that hook and let it down,
Yeah.
and then start asking the questions.
Right. Right.
Okay.
And I mean, you also have to think about too, running water has its own energy.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be the energy of the water interacting with the energy of the priestess, the granny witch, whoever you want to talk, if they're not doing something to the dowsing rod to make it spin, it could be the two energies meshing,
Right.
which I firmly believe in is 99% of the time when we see something, it's just our energy interacting with residual stuff. But
Do you think that there are still women out there, we'll say in the Appalachians, Asians, or whatever you want to call it, and other mountain areas? Do you think they still practice the old granny witches to this day?
definitely,
Do you think so?
definitely.
Okay. Um, do you know of any?
Each and every time I put aloe on a sunburn,
Okay.
or if I'm drinking catnip tea to calm down, or chamomile tea to relax at night, or to take vitamin C to
Well,
prevent it.
who gave these ladies the knowledge for this?
It was handed down generation to generation, whether it's great grandma knew, Pocahontas, not to be like a statistical name or something like that, but a Native American lady knows something, and here an Irish woman knows something, and they're trading herbalisms and they're working together and they mesh, passing it on through that.
Well, I know a couple of herbalists, and I'm going to actually sit down and talk to them, and hopefully I can get one of them on the show. And I would like to talk more about that. I think it would be an interesting show to have one come on and talk about the different herbs. And I would like to, at one point in time, get somebody who really knows all about rocks and stones and gems and stuff like that, and bring him on the show, to sit down to us and explain to me and you and to the other people who listen to the show all about stones and gems, because people don't really talk about them. But I do know for a fact that quartz, honest to God, the quartz crystals, they have powerful energy. I remember one time, my brother had one on his neck, right on the chain. Okay. It was clear as hell when he first got it. But here, what this thing did, the quartz, it actually would absorb his negative energy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it turned dark. It did. It turned dark. So I believe that any kind of quartz crystals or amethyst or citrine or whatever, you know what I mean? I do there believe that there's a healing possibility. There's a healing situation that goes on with that.
Oh yeah, we have a store here in Butler that used to be Big Blue. It's now the shops on West Diamond, I believe is what they call it now. And we have Dorothy, that's an herbalist, and we have Meredith, who's the gem expert and the crystal expert, and we have Shaylin, who is the tarot reader and expert on that kind of thing. And then they have Brandy, who does massage work there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have people that have plants here in Butler. Ivy Oasis has plants over at Little Shop of Lilith, and she can tell you, cacti are known to ward off evil because they're prickly. A Christmas cactus is the same way, even though they don't have the thorns, they have jagged edges.
Mm-hmm.
Spider plants also protect you as well because of the dagger shaped leaves. So there's something for everyone.
Okay. All right. So what other good, happy things you got about for us in the Appalachians?
Um, that's what I found out about the witchcraft and how it's been passed on from generation to generation and sharing, the ideas with the natives and that kind of thing. I did find out that there were a couple of cryptids I didn't know too much about. Um, the UFO sightings of the green-eyed men, which were very similar to Area 51's descriptions, and then
Mm-hmm.
there are the mysterious lights that tend to twinkle all over the mountains, which are similar to the fireflies but bigger.
Right.
And a lot of people attribute that to gases being released from the mountains, which makes sense. If you've ever seen, obviously, Centralia has the gas coming from the fire, but then if you've ever seen Skinwalker Ranch, they talk about different places being poisonous because of what's being emitted from the ground itself in the hills.
What's your theory? Well, how do you feel about Skinwalker Ranch? Be honest with me. I'll tell you how honest I am. I have a hard believing that shit.
I was skeptical until I realized that the one guy on there was actually high up in the government and investigated UFOs, and not even the owner of the ranch did know that. And that's actually been documented because it was kind of like Trump, classified information that nobody was supposed to know, but then they released it, whichever president said he could. So it wasn't classified anymore. It was declassified.
I mean, all the shows that you see, but everything on the show, when they go and do experiments, when they go and break out the Geiger counters and all kinds of other stuff,
the biggest problem I have are TV shows are scripted. They're told what they can and can't do. We know from experience. The only ones I truly believe are the ones on YouTube that broke away from the Travel Channel and Discovery and whatever shows they were on, like your Project Fear. They bought their own equipment. They were kids. They're on YouTube now. There's, I can never remember. I think it's Sam and Colby. I always get the name wrong. They're extremely believable. Kind of reminds me of what John would do with one of his buddies and some of their friends.
Okay.
They're pretty believable.
But back to Skinwalker Ranch. I believe that there are UFOs and because they're everywhere. But
right.
I just think that they over dramatize a lot of the stuff in which they really shouldn't have. Because you've been on investigations, I've been on a lot of investigations, and they're the most boringest things in the whole wide world sometimes. Okay? And the excitement that they actually put into these shows, I'm like, I don't know. I have to see proof. You know what I mean? I have to see proof. I already saw the ghost. I already seen a ghost. I've already experienced a haunting. That's great. I just need to experience a UFO and then experience an alien. Do I believe they exist? Yes, I do. I have no doubt in my mind. But I need the proof.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And that's if a UFO landed in my backyard and an old green-eyed dude came in, and I would shake his hand. Then I can actually say, yeah, I saw one.
So, I mean, I think a lot of the experimentation on that show is a snippet of what they've done. I think a lot of the stuff that they've done that they've proven different things on are hush hush. I believe it's dramatized. I believe a lot of it, like I said, even the experiments can be scripted for dramatic effect.
Right.
What are your thoughts on why, like the granny witches had to be quiet? Why do you think that people are persecuted for being, say, a witch or a warrior or, that kind of thing?
Well, I believe that the people who are persecuting the granny witches and, the shamans and all that. I really believe it's out of pure ignorancy. Okay. Um, that people were closed minded at the time when all this stuff was going on. And there's a lot of people that are closed minded today. But back then, they probably didn't have, they were just like, I would have to say ignorant, but I would also have to say scared, okay, and nervous because this lady did something and this is not supposed to happen. So what we're going to do is shun her and cause a lot of crap. You know what I mean? Just like they did to the witches up in Salem, man. You know, two little girls going around spreading freaking rumors, and how many people got dead?
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, a lot of these granny witches were midwives because there weren't obstetricians or gynecologists to have babies. They were doulas. They helped, of course, they would get blamed if a baby died.
Right.
The baby could have had the RH factor because back then nobody knew what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, the cord could have been around the baby's neck or breech, or any number of things could have happened to the baby for no reason other than it was their time to go back.
Right. Right.
And if a witch is known by the whole town and she lives near a lot of people and a lot of people have issues, what are they going to deduce?
Do what?
What are they going to like? So say I live by you,
Mm-hmm.
and after I move in by you, there's been a lot of theft on your street.
Right.
You're going to assume it's me.
Right.
So same thing with like a witch. If a witch is known to be in a specific house in the center of the community, because they probably were so that everybody could get to them easy, and things started happening, who are they going to blame?
The witch.
They're not going to blame the guy who owns the hotel. They're not going to blame the guy who owns the mine. Exactly. It's going to be the witch's fault. It's the easiest thing to do because we're all kind of quiet and keep to ourselves anyways, as just because that's how we are.
Maybe we should be a lot more vocal, and say, hey, I'm Shawn Kelly. I am a recovering alcoholic and I hunt ghosts and I go out and fight demons.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Sorry, my hair's doing something crazy. I feel like Wendy.
Don't worry about your hair. Come on. Now, see, girls, ladies, gentlemen watching the show, listening to the show, how do you all worry about your freaking hair? Come on. There's nothing.
It's one of those things. I multitask, so I'm always doing something. But
no, I don't care. You're on into the night, and the only tasking you need to do is, start coming at me with some questions. And,
yeah. Well,
don't worry about your hair.
What are your thoughts on, why witches were blamed for everything?
Like I said before, pure ignorance. They didn't know well. Well, back then, the Quakers, they were really hardcore Catholic people, okay?
Right.
And if you didn't believe in the Bible or you didn't go to the church, no matter what it was, right? Even if you weren't a witch and you didn't follow Christianity back then, okay, you were put to the test.
Right. Do you think that people that are witches are born into it through, generational things, that it was a gift from the universe or the God of their understanding? Like,
I believe when, with the witches, right, that it came down, okay? It came down through the different levels, like great grandma, and she passed it down and passed it down and passed it down and passed it down to where, and I'm an honest person, and I'm going to tell you straight out, I believe that the women out there right now, some, not all, well, some, most women that want to become a witch because I have experience. They wanted to do this, they want to do it that way, and they go and they start studying. And I mean, to me, they are witches, okay? But I believe the ones that were taken down, that started up there like 6 generations ago and working way down, that they kind of got their shit together. You know what I mean? So how many witch friends did I just lose by saying that?
Well, I mean, there's something to be said about being a witch and not learning either. Like, you have to learn your histories, you have to study. It's never ending. You're not the, be all, know all. It's about respecting other people. I was labeled, when I came out with Hawk's Nest, I named it Hawk's Nest Center for Shamanic Breathwork because in healing, because it wasn't just breath work. I wanted to incorporate, herbs from my herbalist friends and gems from my geo friends and, whatever the person wanted in there. Candle magic, which is not my thing. And I was persecuted for that. But, I know people that have had to change the name of their brand because they were shunned because of what it was called.
Why do you think? Why do you give me your answer? Why do you think? Tell me your answer. Why do you think witches got shunned and witches got blamed and stuff like that?
So, from my own personal experience, and yeah, I'm an alcoholic as well, and I come from a long line of witches on both sides of my family. I was confronted by a woman who said that I was a Satanist and I was inviting the devil into the store and that I needed to get my act together and believe in Jesus and God and whatever you want to say. And what I explained to her calmly, which was a feat for me, and me, because I liked, the woman who owns the store and I respected her. I said to her, it's pretty sad because where I've learned this is, Venus Rising University, which was built on the fundamentals of AA, which was a bunch of psychotherapists and psychologists that believed that people were over medicated. So they went all over the world studying from different geographies, India, Bali. She studied with Ram Dass. She studied with so many people. And then there was grandmother Twyla, who was the leader of the 5-star nations. And, she named it shamanic breathwork in her honor because she had been dreaming about this woman her whole life. So, I explained the history to this woman and and who am I to judge anybody? I have friends that are atheists that I would trust with my last dollar. I have friends that are, Jewish. I have friends that are Roman Catholic. I have family that's Roman Catholic. I have family that, is Native American that I recently found out. So, like, who am I to judge? Who
Right.
That would be an egotistical thing for me to do. So for somebody to come to me and tell me I have to do this, I have to do that, that was extremely judgmental. That was extremely it was a persecution against my character.
Now, when people judge us or judge you or judge, people who walk a different path than other people do you think the people who do judge us, they're doing it because they're afraid, or do you think it's for another reason?
So in my 48 plus years, I've learned that when somebody doesn't like you, it's either out of fear or they see something in you they dislike about themselves.
Okay. So for the people who don't understand what you just said, like me, can you explain it a little bit better on my terms and the people who...
So somebody could be fearful that I am having sacrificial lambs in my breathwork space, come see what I'm all about, that they don't know what it is. It could be, anything that would scare them. Or maybe they see something in me that they don't like about themselves. Maybe they are homeopathic or a witch and they don't like it because they are Christian. Or, it might be that I have brown hair and I remind them of themselves. It could be anything. But the
Right.
thing is, and what I've learned in the big book and what I've really, really honed in on in the past several months has been, it's none of my business what anybody thinks about me.
Right. Which is understandable. I'm to that right now, and to be honest with you, I'm not used to being that way. I'm not. I don't. I am not. I for the longest time, I just respected everybody, try to help everybody out, and like I tell people now, my gave a damn busted. All right, it really did. And to be honest with you, I don't like who I am now because I'm more ignorant. You know what I mean? I'm not the Shawn Kelly that I used to be. And I don't like who I am, but in today's world right now, that's how I am. You know,
Well,
I
and
can,
we both used to be paranoid about what other people thought of us.
yeah,
We would
exactly.
text each other constantly about that. And the thing is, we're in a day and age now where it's all about me, myself, and I.
Hmm.
Okay. So, we don't think like that, but sometimes we have to act like that. And I think the reason we do when we do, instead of shunning or saying, oh my God, what did I do wrong? I think it's because our energy knows that they need to see, hey, wake up. You're treating somebody like crap.
Hmm.
Schnizzle.
You can say shit. It's no problem.
Yeah.
We're on
And
Roku.
you know what I mean? So, I think it's a combination of that. I think, we naturally just feel what the energy is in the situation. And if it warrants being a jagoff, as we say in Pittsburgh, then we are. And
Now, would
whatever,
you consider all this paranormal?
no,
Could you?
well,
Could you?
people could, yeah, people could. I think people could because not everybody feels energy. You have to be trained in it or born into it. Um, because when we're little, we have that, and then we're taught not to feel that anymore. So, we're kind of um, programmed not to do it. So, anybody can feel energy.
Right. And
It's
that word program that you came up with,
mm-hmm,
and that is true. We have been programmed. But
mm-hmm,
I know how I was programmed. And, by just being on podcasts and knowing some good people on here, um, I'm kind of like unprogramming myself. And I'm starting to see um, the real shit that's going on behind the thing. But all I know is that I just lost my train of thought. Back to you.
that's okay. That's okay. I think we're programmed to be a certain way when we're children because that's what society thinks we should be like.
Hmm.
Whether we're raised Jewish, whether we're raised Catholic, whether we're raised Wiccan, it doesn't matter. We're taught what they know. You can only be taught what somebody knows.
So the so bear with me on that. So the granny witches and the Appalachians, right? They were trained from their grandmas and great
Right.
grandmas and great great grandmas, right? And then when it came down to the last one out of the line of granny witches, then man came in, stepped in, and like threw it away. Shunned them or did the rest of them. I don't know what they did to them. And so, if I take that, where the granny witches were persecuted, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the same way that the Catholics were,
Right.
because if you look all the way down the Bible, right? I don't even really want to get into that. To me, it's just a book. I usually lose friends when I talk about the book. But all the stories that were put into that book was to push Christianity into to the people over in the United Kingdom, and all the pagans were over there, right?
Yeah.
Was pushing the Christianity onto them, and that they didn't. So that's why I really have a problem with the book. They need to rewrite it, is what they need to do, to be honest with you.
It's funny how history tends to repeat itself.
Right. Right.
I mean, if you believe the story of the Last Supper, Jesus changed water into wine and changed bread into his body, and isn't that witchcraft?
Hey.
Isn't
Yeah,
that a ritual?
I guess, yeah. You want to look at it.
Every time we go to a Catholic mass, isn't it a ritual?
I haven't been to mass in over 30 years.
Well, if you think about it, we stand when we're supposed to, we kneel when we're supposed to, we chant when we're supposed to.
Right. Okay. So do they do that in the Wiccan religion?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know half of the majority of the different things that the Catholic Church actually celebrates actually came from paganism? Ain't that crazy, man?
There's a lot of it. I mean, well, everything.
That's crazy. It's like,
Everything.
so we could talk about the Appalachian Mountains, we can talk about Bigfoots, and we could talk about whatever. But ain't it crazy though that we started working on the subject. We talked about the cryptids, the most strange stories of the mountains, the Appalachian Mountains, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like that we got sidetracked on a couple of things. We go into our recovery, and then we went into how we investigated the different towns, and explaining the granny witches and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It just amazes me that I believe what we are supposed to talk about, we don't. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We go off and start talking about other subjects. Like,
Or, so here's the thing though, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the God of your understanding's will, or is it Shawn's will?
Not my will. I just start talking and I go off in every other direction.
So we may plan to do things a certain way, but that's Tara and Shawn's will, not the greater good's will.
But I don't. Well, that's true. I mean, whatever was supposed to be said on tonight's show was supposed to be said.
Right.
And that's the way I look at it. I don't know if it's me. I don't know if it's a higher power. I don't know if the spirit out in left field is coming in and whispering in my ear and telling me to talk about this. But we had a good show tonight. I mean, their last month our shows have been great, and I want to thank everybody who listens to our show, and we appreciate you tuning in.
Heck yes.
Overseas, and in Israel, Australia, New Zealand, China, Russia. All over the place over there, and even in the United States, we do appreciate you coming on. If there is any last remarks you want to say, and then I'm going to get into the closing, Tara.
Yeah, no problem. I just wanted to say that everybody has their own talents in life. It's up to them to try to figure out how to learn about it, because you're never done learning. And you and I have been friends for over 20 years, and you've always been the fighter and I've always been the healer, and we're kind of matched for whatever reason. And we believe that it's been many times before. And it's funny when we see things or dream about things at the same time and have no idea. I mean, now you live an hour away from me and not 10 minutes. So we're not even in the same zip code anymore, because we were back in the day. I had a Dormont zip code. So, but the thing is, I think the world needs more people to come front and center with the things that they've suppressed and stand up for themselves.
Do you think that will make a change in what's going on in the world today?
I think so. I think a lot of people need to be more accepting of others and worry about their side of the street and their own self-care. Because that's the other thing. A lot of people don't take care of themselves.
Right. Right. That's true. Um, but I want to thank you for bringing up this subject. You'll be on next week, I hope.
Yep.
Um,
I'll be starting at 9 next week because I have my AA meeting.
Okay.
8 to 9.
All right. That's good. So you got to behave and do always, and I'll tell the world, if you need to go to your meetings, you go to your meetings because that's more important. It really is. So save my life, But everybody, I want to thank you for watching the show tonight. Me and Tara, we talked about the Appalachian Mountains, and maybe we did get off track on it, going and talking about different places and different things. But you know what? Whatever we said tonight was probably meant to say what we had to say. So, again, I hope you enjoyed the show. We are on Tuesday nights from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. on UPRN Talk Radio, 105.3 New Orleans, 107.7 Mississippi, and we're also on the Roku station. And the last, and I'll give my last word for tonight, and I really would like to talk about mental illness here, okay? I know I haven't talked about it for a while, but it just seems like the way the world's going right now, I need to about me because I do have mental illness. I get a lot of depression. I have a lot of anxiety. And there are times where I don't take my medication. I don't want to take my medication being because I don't like what it does to me, right? It makes me more depressed, to be honest with you. Now, they always said that if you take your medication, it's supposed to work, but for some ungodly reason, it doesn't. So for me, I need to talk to somebody, I would, have, or if I need somebody to talk to, I won't be talking to them. If I have to sit beside the person, I will sit beside and just listen, So anybody out there, if you actually see anybody that is really, really hurting out there, and they're having a real tough time. Hey, Nikki, good to see you. If they're having a real hard time, just go up to them. You don't have to say nothing. Just smile and just ask them if they're okay. Because I do that for a lot of people. And people come up and ask me how I'm doing, which, kind of makes me feel good, to be honest with you. When people do come up and talk to me and asking me how I'm doing, it's kind of crazy because I don't know how to accept that. So I'm kind of like working on that. So find somebody and just talk. Just talk. That's all you need to do. And trust me, life will get better. And on a happy note, I get to pull my second batch of potatoes tomorrow.
Nice.
And I'm really looking forward to that. The first one, I don't know if you saw on my Facebook page, but I had 4 seed potatoes and came out with 14. So this one I put in 4, and I'm hopefully coming out with 18 potatoes, So
nice.
We'll see. Next week, I'm going to pull the garlic, and the week after that, I'm going to pull the onions. So to me, it's a hell of a lot. Spend a lot of money. Spent $500 on all this stuff that I needed to do to plant. And I got 1 red tomato so far. So with the other 9, another 18 of them still green. So we'll see how it goes. But everybody,
spoken like a true Irishman: potatoes, onions, and garlic.
Damn straight. That's the Holy Trinity. Remember that. So I got to learn how to do celery. We'll be all right. So everybody, please, thank you for joining us tonight. We are on Tuesday nights from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. into the night. And children, if you can, please do me a big, big favor. Go to your parents, give them a hug, and tell them that you love them. And parents, please go to your children and give them a hug and tell them that you love them. And if you don't have any parents and you don't have any children, find a good friend and give them a hug and tell them that you love them. Because those 3 words, okay, I love you, go a long, long way. And on that night, listen to me. Tara, thank you for being on again. And
Always.
We'll see you next week. And hopefully we'll see everybody next week. So on that note, good night.
You are listening to UPRN, United Public Radio Network, coming to you live on 105.3 right up to 107.7 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. UPRNtalkradio.com.
Hey there. It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcasts. There's an amazing show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. The News on the Flip Side, in the category of politics and news. News on the Flip Side is a much different news and political program which is not deemed as opinion news. Listen as Joe Montaldo brings to you just the facts from trusted sources which will allow you, the people, to make up your own minds on the various stories being reported on. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate News on the Flip Side in the category of politics and news. That's podcastawards.com, and please take a moment and do it now.
All right, everybody, it's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcast. Yes, it is that time of year again. There's a show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards, UFO Undercover, in the category of entertainment. UFO Undercover brings you some of the most revealing and current research that is being done with respect to alien abductions and contact. Host Joe Montaldo has been an abduction researcher for over 35 years and is uniquely qualified to bring you live interviews with some of the most well-known researchers in ufology. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate UFO Undercover in the category of entertainment. That's podcastawards.com, and please take a moment and get out and vote now.